afternoon, coming to you live, and I just wanted to talk about 3 ways that productivity really affects your profitability or your bottom line. And why I'm talking about this is because I've experienced this with my clients, with my friends, colleagues, women in business. Right, I've been in business for a number of years. I've also been a project manager in a big Fortune 5 company for about 15 years, and so managing different projects. I've done leadership development training with my people and my team back in corporate. So all of these things that I've learned over the years, there are trends and patterns that I've seen in corporate and in the entrepreneurial world. So today we are talking about 3 ways that your productivity affect profitability or your bottom line. So where I was working in the corporate space, it's a very safety-driven environment, right? Oil refinery, there's a lot of things that can explode. So the first one I really wanted to talk about today is brain fog. Brain fog and how it affects your decision-making and your critical thinking skills. And I also learned more about how to do this, and it was a necessity for me at the time. I was working 50, 60, 70 hours a week. At one point I clocked in like 100 hours a week. That was like the max. But I would be up at before the crack of dawn. Okay. The sun came out like 2 hours after I was already awake. But I had to check in by like 4:30, 4:45 a.m. at work. The sun didn't come up until like 6:30. So and I didn't get home until around 6:30 at night. So I was spending like 12 hours or 12 and a half hours at work, and then you add on the commute time and all of that, plus being a mom, plus being a wife, and being active in church. All of these things, right, were splitting my time, splitting my energy, and it affected me at my job. And I was also doing my job and also doing coaching on the side. So and helping just friends and colleagues that would come to me, and because I knew a lot about like the tech pieces from building my own business, I did a lot of consultations with friends who just needed a little help with all of that tech stuff. And it was really pulling on me, and it caused me to go into adrenal burnout. And there was also like emotional stuff that was happening. So the emotional stuff is totally related to the physical drain, right? There's physical drain on your body. There's 4 areas that affect your overall energy: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. And I give myself a number grade on this every single day so that I know where I am energetically. And then I also compare that to my notes on my calendar, what I did that day, things that happened, meetings that I was in or am in, and I match up the numbers. It's like, oh, okay, this happened because this and that and that. And all of that to say, right, when we're under a lot of stress, it can affect our ability to make like the decisions that we need to make. And as CEOs and owners in our business, right, we own our time. Time is money, right? We don't get paid if we're not producing results as a coach. So that's why your productivity, your personal productivity, is key to your profitability, right? And this is what I tell the people in my group. If you're not in the group, it's Systems That Serve. Go ahead and join that group. I do a lot of these trainings and teachings in there. But your brain, as an entrepreneur, as a coach, is your biggest asset. Like, why do people come to you? It's because you give them ideas. We're not working a 9 to 5. People come to us as coaches, mentors, to give them advice. Am I right? Like that's the whole purpose of coaches and consultants, two different things, but consultants give advice. I would say I'm like a consultant. I'm so used to giving advice in the corporate space, and I have a lot of ideas, and like project management wise, like those ideas come to me very easily, regularly. But also, the coach is supposed to ask the right questions, be in tune with the client. And if you're experiencing brain fog, stress, whatever, if you're not taking care of your temple, it's going to be very hard for you to connect with your client and also not see them with the lens that you're experiencing all the stress, right? If you as a coach are experiencing financial hardship, it's going to be kind of hard to coach somebody through to their financial breakthrough, right? You can't coach from a defeated place. Does that make sense? Okay, so that's number one. Brain fog affects your critical thinking and decision making, and how to manage your energy levels. Yeah, and then so I also wanted to talk about so that would be underperformance. The second thing that I wanted to talk about is just overall health in general, and how eating the wrong types of food. If you know, I used to be a health coach. I help people with adrenal burnout and how to recover from that, like how to get people to de-stress, get rid of all the stress so that their body can heal, and then they're able to recover. And a lot of the symptoms that we were able to clear, besides getting the weight loss and all of that down, it was all the brain fog that was happening. A lot of my clients couldn't really think straight, or it's the same thing related to back to number one, is they were having a hard time making the simplest decisions on like what they should eat. And they were always resorting to like these high sugar, like frappuccino kind of, like they needed a lot of caffeine and a lot of sugar about between 2 and 4 in the afternoon, usually around 3. So we would call it the 3 o'clock slump. And but eating these bad foods actually would, their bodies are craving it, but at the same time they would get like this little high, and then they'd be so they'd end up taking a nap like in the afternoon, or like late, like 5, 6, 7, like they'd crash out on the couch, and then they'd wake up like around 8 with renewed energy, but this would like totally mess them up, and they wouldn't be able to sleep. And so like this whole sleep cycle, being off balance, was a whole thing. And in order for them to get past the weight loss resistance, we had to break through that sleep barrier for them. So that's a little bit of my health coaching vibe and background. But that's when I was doing the health coaching, a lot of the people that were coming to me were already entrepreneurs themselves. So this tip applies. I mean, it applies everywhere, right? It even applied to like corporate. So if you don't know, I used to work in an oil refinery back in Hawaii. And in Hawaii, we have this phrase called Kanak attack. So Kanak, or Kanaka, Kanak is short for Kanaka. Kanaka is like the word for person. In the Hawaiian language, there's a couple of different words, but that's like the maybe straight literal translation of the word Kanak or Kanaka, right? So the Kanak attack would happen after lunch. And so a lot of the Polynesian men or local guys would eat this huge meal. I mean, we've been up since like 4 in the morning. By the time we eat lunch, everyone's starving. And so they eat this really heavy lunch, and then after lunch, they have the slump too. And it's not that, but what I'm trying to say is the productivity level all around after lunch was kind of slumped out in the field where we were eating a lot of carb heavy lunches. Some of the engineers, right, they weren't Polynesian. They were more mainland style, right? And they would eat more healthy with like lettuce, and then they'd work out on their lunch breaks. And so it was just funny to see how, right, all the guys would be all like, oh, it's kids after lunch, like, you know, like, let's just like take it easy. And then these engineers would come in after they ate their super healthy lunch, they worked out on their lunch break, and so they're pumped and their energy is high, and they come in and they want to do all these things after lunch because they do all their desk work in the morning, and they're like, oh, in the afternoon, like, I need more data, collect more data. They would come out into the field, and I'd be like all of us would be like, oh no, like, we see the engineers coming in, it's like, oh no, let's run away. So yeah, eating bad foods, or not, I want to say bad foods, but eating the wrong foods at the wrong times really affects your energy level, and it affects your brain and how it thinks, and it affects your productivity. So that's number 2 that I wanted to talk about today. And whether using the example in the refinery, right? We got paid to just be there and respond to emergencies and things. There's just lower productivity in certain hours of the day, and it was kind of evident. And like each work group had their own different productivity cycles, and when it's kind of like you knew when to go to someone's office, because it's like, oh, this is their regular habit or pattern. They are probably in their office at this time because like you could just understand their habits and their work patterns. Or maybe I did. Like when I was consulting and working on projects, and I had to talk to people in different departments, it was just the thing. I knew when their meetings were, I knew all of that, and I knew when to approach the right person at the right time because I needed them to make a decision. Right? You're not going to go into the boss's office and ask for an approval on a project knowing that he's preparing for his morning meeting with his team. Like, you're not going to do that. His brain is not there. But knowing the right time to approach someone and ask someone. So it also applies to when do you have your onboarding calls, when do you have your discovery calls, things like that. You need to have your discovery calls when you are in the right energy, right? It's why I've switched my scheduler to handle and to flow with my own energy. It's like I only do connection calls in the afternoon at the end of the day, because the way that my brain works is I want all of my to-do list, all of my tasks off of my plate, so that I can fully engage with this person that I'm having a conversation with. I don't want to have all of the, oh my gosh, I still have this and this and this to do, or clients are pinging me on Slack, or I'm getting text messages, or Asana messages. Like, I'm not in the right frame of mind. So for me, it's easier to take care of all the tasks, all the to-do list, and get that out of the way before I do all of this external connecting and such. And it's also why I shifted to doing my lives in the afternoon, because I'm like, well, if I'm doing connection calls in the afternoon, I should be doing my lives in the afternoon, because this is where my social energy is up, where my connection energy is up. And so that's something that we're going to be talking about coming up in the 5-day challenge that we're hosting inside of the Facebook group Systems That Serve. It's starting on the 21st on Monday, so hop in, join if you want to learn more about how to manage your energy, the 4 types: physical, emotional, mental, spiritual. And also how to, how to manage all of that, and know there's 4 types of work blocks. So we're also going to be talking about that. Social is one of them, like admin is one. Whatchamacall? I wasn't going to talk about this. I didn't write it down. But we're going to be covering those 4 different types of work blocks. Oh, one is recovery, where you rest and you recharge, whether you have to take a Netflix break or walk the dog. But all of those blocks are built into your day, so you know when you're most effective, right? When you should be doing what in your day based on your personal energy map. So we're going to create that during the challenge. Hope you guys join us. And then number 3 is dealing with your physical space, right? What is that phrase? An empty desk. Right, an empty desk is an empty mind, something like that. But for us as creatives, right? I specifically help Christian-centered coaches, females who are creative, outgoing. We have a lot of this promotion energy, but it doesn't really help us be productive, right? It doesn't really help. And when we're not super productive, it also affects our energy and how we show up. So it's kind of like you'll be a hit. Like you'll be a hit and miss, and then when you miss, it's like that miss, it just really affects you. It affects who you are, how you show up, and then you kind of get into this really down slump, and then it's hard to kick it back into gear and get back up again. And I know a lot of my women, we're super creative. We have like pens, papers, notebooks. Like, raise your hand if you have at least 5 notebooks or journals sitting on your desk. My desk is really huge. It's a converted dining table. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a notepad, so I do have 5 notebooks, all here in my desk, in my vicinity. I actually have 3 active notebooks that I use, and I had to do spiral bound. So that's the tip of the day. I had to get spiral bound notebooks, because when I would just randomly grab a piece of paper, and this is actually a tip that I learned from a productivity course that I took. But yeah, when your papers are like randomly strewn about, especially if you love Post-its, it's easy to write on a Post-it and then stick it here in your book. And then for safekeeping, you just staple it on so that it doesn't get lost, but your thoughts are all here. And it's in chronological order. It may not be in like linear order, right? You'll get thoughts, ideas, and things, and your projects might be all over the place. But the good thing is, especially if you date, just put a date at the top of your pages. It's like, oh, I don't know about you, but I kind of remember what I did on what days, or I remember what I was doing based on who I was talking to. So I'm like, oh, it was this meeting with this person. And then I was like, maybe it was like last week, or maybe it was a couple of weeks ago or so, and having the date and then the person's name at the top of the sheet, but everything's, all tied together, made the hugest difference for me, and keeping all of these random thoughts in one place. So when your physical environment is not serving you, your productivity levels drop, and then it also affects your like if you can't find, like say you need a password or something, and you're like, oh my gosh, I wrote that password somewhere, and you're like looking around and stuff, right? It's a task that you thought would take 5 minutes, and now it's taking you half an hour because you couldn't find that password that you were looking for. So you see what I'm saying? The these three things: your performance, your physical health, right? Your performance is like your brain fog and how quick do you make critical decisions and process information and make decisions, right? So that is your your rate of performance. Hold on one sec. And then the second one we talked about was your physical health. How are you taking care of your temple and your body and letting your energy work for you, right? And then the last one that we just talked about is your environment. How does your physical environment help you to be more productive? And when you are more productive, But when you are more productive, you are more profitable, right? It's time versus money. We're going to be talking about time versus money in the challenge. I've talked about it here before, but it really is about time is finite, right? You only have 24 hours in a day, and half of them are personal hours, or more than half, right? Like your work day is 8 hours typically, right, at the 9 to 5. So you work 8 hours, 5 days a week, 40-hour work week. And so the rest of the time that you're not working, the 8 hours, right, the 16 hours is usually personal time. So like people, and this is like one of my biggest pet peeves, people who focus on productivity always talk about the hustle muscle. And this is what I call like the bro flow. Productivity models is like go, 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 hustle, hustle, hustle. And it's like, you know, I hustled for 17 years and then I got diagnosed with adrenal burnout. And right, I was trying to keep up with the hustle muscle of my male counterparts in the refinery, and work, like we all had to take overtime hours. Like that was part of our contract. And how it was distributed, they try to distribute it evenly. I mean, more people, like when people would volunteer, then it was great. Like I didn't have to, but when everyone was strapped or people were on vacation, like overtime was mandatory. So I was trying to keep up with the hustle muscle and the bro flow that was happening around me. But I was also a wife, I'm also a mom, and I'm also very active in church. Teaching Sunday school, so you know I had other responsibilities and things that I had to fulfill, and right, I'm also trying to build my business. I'm taking all these online classes. I mean, I even tried to go back to college with that crazy work schedule. It didn't work. I ended up dropping out, and it made me feel bad about myself. And then that slump I was talking about, it goes, and then you know, you kind of get into the ditch, into that valley, and you have to, you know, try and climb out. But I do want to acknowledge that, yes, there is a wave. There are waves of emotion that hit us as women, and that's why the bro flow productivity model does not work, right? The 4-hour work week or whatever, all of that stuff, it's so strict and so rigid. There's a book called Spaghetti and Waffles, or Men Are Like Waffles, Women Are Like Spaghetti. And it's like men are very compartmentalized thinkers. So it's like, oh, it's work time, so I can think about work time. And then when, for women, it's spaghetti. So if you look at a plate of spaghetti, they're all like everything's touching, right? So this is how women think. We don't shut our brains off to our kids just because we are at work. And we're like, oh, well, these, for me, it was 12 hours, right? It's like these 12 hours, I'm not going to think about my kids or worry about them, like, at all. No. For us as women, it's all inclusive. It's like we're thinking about a lot of things right now. And it's the same way, like, in sexual relations, if we're gonna go there, right? Men can just turn it off and it's like, okay, like now it's bedroom time, so I'm gonna be, you know, doing this bedroom thing. But for us as females, we could be lying there thinking about a dozen other things while we are engaging in coitus, to use Sheldon Cooper's word, right? It's just a thing, you know? Just women are wired like spaghetti, everything touching, and men are compartmentalized like waffles. I really love that analogy. It really paints the picture. So, and then once I learned that, like I wasn't even thinking about being a life coach. This was all just for me and personal development, that, you know, I was listening to these audiobooks, podcasts, and things because I was having a hard time keeping up with the bro flow and the hustle muscle that was going on around me. And I think it even was detrimental to my progress in corporate. It's like, oh, well, I don't want to work, or I can't work. And it's like, oh, you kind of got this like secret red mark on your file because you didn't want to get the company tattoo, or that we used to call it, you know, the company tattoo. It's like, and our uniforms were blue, so it's like, oh yeah, I'm bleeding blue. You know, like the company wanted you to sell yourself out to the company at the expense of everything else. It's like company first, everything else last. And it was okay, you know, for men who had wives in the home, but for people like me, like, it's about 2% female. If I'm doing the numbers correctly, it's like 2% female. So for the 2% of us that are wives, are moms, you know, and then you had some dads that were really involved with their children, but it still wasn't the same thing. It's like, yes, they were really involved with their kids' lives. It's usually they were sports coaches for their son or daughter's little league, soccer, football, whatever. But it was still not the same as having to take care of the home. I mean, granted, these guys cook, they clean, they do. I mean, they did laundry. They weren't you know, not taking care of the home on their days off, because we would get days off during the week because we would work weekends sometimes. But still, they weren't like ultimately responsible. It's like they were helping their wives out by cooking, cleaning, whatever, but it wasn't their sole responsibility. That if laundry wasn't done, they weren't gonna like, hey dad, where's my underwear? It's always, mom, where's my stuff? Whatever, right? Not always 100% of the time, I get that. But a lot of the time, the brunt of the family responsibilities and raising children lies and sits on our shoulders. And that's a lot of stuff to carry around. And especially when you're trying to run your own business and you're following all of these coaches online that are, you know, spouting out the bro flow and the hustle muscle, and you know, you just gotta grind, gotta hustle until you make it. And then it's like, but when does that ever stop, right? When does pride and greed ever take a back seat once it's the driver? It doesn't. So and I know a lot of you who resonate with this message about the not being into the bro flow, not being into the hustle muscle. You are that woman who wants to have a successful business. You want to have all of the things, right? You want to be profitable in your coaching business, and then you're trying all these things. You see it. Oh, there's a productivity challenge, I should join it. Oh, there's this other productivity thing, oh, I should try it out. Or like all the different things that you tried, planners that you've tried. There's so much going on. And even business coaches are teaching mindset, productivity, life hacks, body hacks, energy hacks, right? Even like straight business and marketing coaches are talking about these things on their live streams because they know it is part of the success path for their their mentees and the people they're coaching and they're guiding through this entrepreneurial journey. But you know what? They're not health coaches. They're not. I don't know. Maybe they've managed people in the past, but you know, a lot of them were never leaders. You know, like leaders of a lot of people as they shot up the ranks. You know, or shot up in profitability, and they were given this influencer platform. A lot of them really haven't had that corporate experience. So, I mean, take their stuff with a grain of salt. But you know, I've had to learn all of these things and manage like giant groups of people, manage multi-million-dollar projects, and just know that the bro flow and the hustle muscle did not work for me as a creative female in a very masculine workplace. So, all that to say, you know, if you are struggling with time management, productivity, trying to get everything done without feeling like you're alienating your family, and you're tired of like getting into the groove, getting into the, you know, like, oh, like I'm on a roll, I'm on a jam, and then you have other things calling your attention. It's because, you know, you haven't set the right boundaries in place. You don't know like how to get into that flow and stay in that flow state for X amount of time, and then once it's done and like it dries up, it's really just time to cut it and move on. And so there's a whole lot of things that we're going to be talking about in the 5-day challenge, Flow into Freedom. And you know, it's really about how to find your flow, how to stay in flow state, because this is the key to freedom. It's freedom from stress, it's freedom from overwhelm, but it's also freedom like in living the abundant life that God promised us. You know, when you're flowing, and you know, like Bruce Lee, be like water. Anyway, I love kung fu movies, you know, and so, all right, that's a lot of masculine energy. But you know, we're talking, if I didn't mean to talk about this today, but right, there's a whole like yin and yang, like masculine and feminine energy, right? Everybody has both, right? We are all descendants of God. God created us in his image. He's neither male or female. We call him he, but he's both, right? He calls, he's the bridegroom, we're the bride, but bride also represents men, male followers of Jesus. So, you know, God is not, he's not a not respecter of genders, but he is, you know, he's neither this or that. He's both. He has both masculine and feminine energies, especially if you read the Bible. He's depicted in different, he's not only depicted in a masculine energy, even though we call him a he. Does that make sense? So he ebbs, he flows, right? Like Jesus wept is like the shortest verse in the Bible and one of the most like popular verses, you know, besides John 3:16 and all of those, right? And the Lord's Prayer and Psalms 23. But Jesus had a soft side, and he knew when his body needed to rest. He's like, okay, whew. He was resting. He was resting on the boat, and everybody was freaking out, right, when the storm hit. And he went outside. He's like, peace, be still, be calm. Like, I'm trying to sleep. And he spoke to the wind and the waves, and they calmed down. And then when they were hungry, he was like, where's the food? Go get me some food. Broke the bread, and then it became a miracle. But I'm just saying, he didn't push through, right? When he was preaching and the feast of the 5,000, or feeding the 5,000, he didn't keep pushing. He stopped. He's like, hey, like, I've been preaching for a while. I think these people are hungry. You know, so he knew the ebbs and the flows of when his own body, he had a physical body, but also the ebbs and flow of his community, his congregation, so to speak. And he was very in tune and listening to the people and himself, and creating this flow. Like he was never out of flow. He was never out of place, right? Even when Lazarus died. I mean, as bad as it seems, like I've heard different things about it, but you know, he let Lazarus die and stay in the tomb for 4 days before they resurrected him, because it was all part of the plan. It was all part of God's plan of showing them the power of resurrection. And anyway, all of that to say, getting into your flow is really the freedom. And like the Bible said, the truth will set you free. You'll get your own copy of this time management wheel during the challenge, and you're going to fill it out. You're going to do your own personal assessment of where you rate yourself. And this is all self-assessment, right? You're going to print it out. You're going to rate yourself, rank yourself on the 12 different sections. Today we talked about 3 of the sections in the empowerment quadrant: health, environment, and performance. And you'll get the rest of the 9 when you join the challenge and you get the handout. But it's all about knowing who you are, how you work, when do you work best, because that's the only way that you can tap into your personal productivity. And then we already discussed, your productivity affects your profitability as a coach and a business owner, right? So let me just recap the 3 things. Number 1, brain fog affects your critical thinking skills and decision making, right? We're talking about performance there. Number 2, eating the wrong foods at the wrong times can put you into a sugar coma. I got a call. You really shouldn't be in a sugar coma when you're trying to do the most focused and like critical tasks in your business. And then the last but not least is 3 is environment. Having a space that induces high levels of productivity and clearing out, you know, the stuff that energetically is just sucking you dry, so that you can be at your peak productivity levels and really tap into your profitability that way. So if you want to join the Challenge 1, come join the Systems That Serve Facebook group. Or if you want to just register right now, the link is going to be in the chat for you to join. It's alohaunveil.com/flow. alohaunveil.com/flow to join and sign up. And I'm just super excited to be talking about these things and teaching these things, because I'm really sick and tired of seeing all of these Facebook ads. You know, I've been researching, so of course the more you research, the more the ads are going to pop up about bro flow productivity. It's like, no, I can't. It's like, I can't keep letting women feel this way, because when they come to me, they feel like a failure. They feel like they've tried it all and nothing works. And they're like, maybe I'm just not meant, and I'm not cut out for business, or maybe I'm not cut out for this coaching thing. Maybe I'll just do it for free, so I don't have to deal with any of, you know, the tech pieces and building a website and all of that. And then, so you know what? You really need to learn what systems, processes, workflows work best for you as a person, and then you go and build it out. I see so many people building out things, and then they're like, oh, I don't like how it works. I was like, well, if you came to me first, I would have told you, like, based on your, like, how you think, how you work, and based on your personality type, that I already knew that was not going to work for you. Here's what I think will work for you. based on everything that I'm seeing, right? Bringing in my life coaching, transformational coaching, behavioral science specialist when I was in the Army, psychology major, and also, you know, personal development, leadership development, operations experience, project management, bringing those two worlds together to create this program and this challenge for you. So hope you guys join us. I'm so excited to be hosting it, and I really am excited. I'm trying to dial it down on the energy because I feel like my voice is giving out, which I don't know why it's giving out. Maybe because I am just so excited. You know, I'm getting dry mouth syndrome, and I'm not getting enough stuff on my vocal cords. So I gotta run. And I just love being here talking to you. You know, you're not physically here, but I enjoy teaching, as you can tell, and I would love for you to join us inside of the Facebook group so you can get more of these kinds of teachings and trainings. And I'd love for you to join us and register for the 5-day challenge, the Flow into Freedom Challenge, and I'm just super pumped that I get to share this with the world. And yeah, it's so right. If this is for you, go ahead, click the link. I'm gonna post it right after I get off this video. Click on the link, register, and I hope to see you there. Bye.